Our next junior number video. In this video, we're going to chat about roots. Now, roots are the opposite operation to powers. For example, 9 squared, which 9 times 9 is 81, and the square root of 81 is 9. 4 cubed, 4 times 4 times 4 is 64, and the cube root of that is 4. 3 to the power of 4 is 81, and the fourth root of 81 is 3. 2 to the power of 5 is 32, and the fifth root of 32 gives us 2. We'll talk about these examples in more depth shortly. Right, let's start with the square root. We did this in the last video, so let's do it very quickly. Square root's the opposite to squaring a number. See, 4 squared means 4 times 4, which is 16. When we square root 16, we get 4. Remember, there should be a little 2 up the front to indicate we are looking for a number times by itself, but nobody writes that 2 there. Right, cube root is the opposite operation to cubing a number. For example, 5 cubed is 125. 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. When I take the cube root of 125, which is like a square root with a little 3 out the front, that gives me 5, because 5 times 5 times 5 is 125. Right, then after powers of 3, we get to what we call the nth root. The nth root is the opposite operation to a power of n. So if I said 5 to the power of 7 is 78,125, I could take the 7th root of 78,125, and that would give me 5, because I know 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 is 78,125. Okay, some examples. We know about the square root. We've done that in the last video, so we know it should be written with a little 2 there, and we know something times something is 49. In this example, it's 7, because 7 times 7 is 49, so the square root of 49 is 7. Please make sure you know how to get the square root on your calculator. If you're using a graphics calculator, you do need to push Shift and then the square root button, and then type in 49. If you've got a scientific calculator like one of these Casio, you just need to push the square root button and type 49 before you push equals. Right, let's get to cube root. Cube root of 216. That means something times something times something is 216. So the answer is 6. 6 times 6 times 6 is 216. So make sure you know how to use the cube root. If you've got a graphics calculator, the cube root sits above the left-hand brackets, and you do need to push Shift first and then the cube root button and then type in 216. And on the Casio Scientific, the cube root is above the square root, so you do need to push Shift first and then push the cube root button and then type your 216 in. Right, what about things higher than a power of 3? Nth root. Here's an example, the fourth root of 625, which means something times something times something times something is 625. Well, the answer is 5. 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 is 625. On the calculator, if you have a graphics, the nth root is this button here, and you do need to push Shift first. Now, as you type it into your calculator, you've got to push 4, then go Shift, then push the nth root button, and then type 625. And on the Casio Scientific, the nth root is above the power button, and you do need to push Shift first. Same thing, you type the 4 in first, then you go Shift, push the nth root button, and then type 625. And when you push equals, you should get 5. Right, example 4, our last example, just to quickly look at this one. What is the cube root of 100? That means something times something times something is 100. Now, if I was to say 4 times 4 times 4, that's 64. And 5 times 5 times 5, that's 125. So 4's too small, 5's too big. So the number's somewhere between 4 and 5. When I use my calculator and type it in, the cube root of 100, I get an answer which I'm going to have to round sensibly, and I've rounded to 4.64 to 2 decimal places. When I go back and check, 4.64 times 4.64 times 4.64, I get 99.9. That's very close to 100, so I know my answer is pretty accurate. Just the rounding has caused it not to be perfect. Great, thanks for watching.